Insomnia from UnrealTech.net, a division of BlenderTek.com here again. In episode 21, we powered through almost 2 hours of blueprinting, trying to get one simple function finished on our weapons, because everything is so interconnected in this setup. Today we're going to continue that and hopefully get to a point where we can finish that original function and change pace to something else. So open your project and remember, create your way. I've upgraded to 4.10.1 and I'm still getting layout crashes, so my screen space is still limited, but we'll work with it. In our BP weapon base, if you don't have it open, open it up. We were working on the stop fire function, and on our BP base character, we were working on equip desired weapon, going back to all these functions that are opened up. So the next thing in after this branch here where we set B wants to fire to true is another function called stop simulating weapon fire. So let's create that. So new function in our BP weapon base called stop simulating weapon fire, and it is gonna go under the events category. And we're going to start off with a sequence. And this sequence is going to have 3 events. So the very first one, we're going to go into a branch. And that condition is going to be a new variable, which is going to have to do with effects. Excuse me there. So let's create a new variable called B looped muzzle flash. And this is going to be a boolean, obviously. It's going to be editable. It's going to go under config effects, nested category there. And its default value is going to be false, so we're fine there. So that is going to be our condition. So just drag and drop it in there. And so if true, we go into another sequence. So if we're stopping simulated weapon fire and we have a looped muzzle flash going on, and then we need to go into this sequence. So first part of the sequence, actually sorry, we won't need a sequence. What we'll need to do is go into an is valid. And what we want to check is valid is going to be our muzzle flash particle system. So let's create another new variable called muzzle flash. I'm just going to go PS for particle system. And that is going to be of the type a particle system component. So we'll go particle system component. You could go PSC if you wanted to remind you that it's an actual component, but it's under the components list here, so that's pretty easy to remember. We want it to be 0 filled at load because we might change that. It doesn't need a default value by stock, so that's fine just like that, because we'll be changing it depending on the weapon and the state it's in. So we'll just drag that and we'll make sure that that is valid or is not valid. If it is valid, we want to deactivate it, so just go up here and go deactivate. Whoa, like so. Deactivate. We'll straighten this out here. And then after that, we simply want to set it back to false. So take it with Alt held down and then just set. So just like so. So what we're doing here is we're just turning off any looping muzzle flash particle system. So handles killing any looping muzzle flash particles when weapon fire is stopped. So that's part 1. After that, we want to stop playing the weapon fire animation. So we go into another branch. something like so. And its condition, we go into an and boolean. Oh. Oh, come on. No, you should be in a different mode. Interesting. Alright, and boolean is what I was looking for. And we're going to need two more variables for that. The first one is going to be looped fire animation, and this is going to be a boolean, of course, because I prefix every boolean with lowercase b. I want it to be editable. It's going to be false by default, and category is going to be under config animations. So that is the first one. And the second one is, if we add another one, is going to be playing fire animation. And that will go in the same category. Actually, it's not config animation, so we'll just leave it as it is. We do want it to be 0 filled on load, so transient, and it's again going to be default false, so it's fine just the way it is. So that'll be the two conditions for this and boolean. Like so. And if both of those are true, then we want to take, we're going to need a new variable and a new structure. So let's create that structure. Let's go into our weapons and right click, new blueprint structure. And it's going to be s_wep anim. Let's go wep anim. So weapons animations. And we'll save while we're at it. And so what we want in here is we want pawn third person animation, and this is going to be of type anim montage reference. We're going to do the same one, anim montage reference. We're going to need 4 of these, so I might as well just knock them out. Anim montage, let's just copy that. Oops, totally screwed that up. Anim montage reference, and one more. So the second one is weapon third person animation, and then of course we have pawn first person animation, and then we have weapon first person animation. So the structure will be used for the animation that the pawn and the weapon plays when doing something in a weapon state, such as firing, reloading, whatever, in both first and third person modes. So we'll save that structure, and we will create a new variable in our base weapon class that has to do with that. And that is going to be called fire animation. It's going to be of the type S, what do we call that now? Wep anim. We want it to be editable. It's going to be under config animations. If I spelt that right, yep. Good enough for me. Now we don't have any animations for that right now to fill in. I think we have first person fire, I guess. So we can do the first person for the pawn first person, but I'll need to create some for the third person. So we'll have to remember to do that if I ever do remember, but we'll get there eventually. And so if true, what we want to do is we want to stop the weapon animation since we're stopping the firing. So we need another function. You guessed it. like I said, I think we're gonna have these this BP weapon based class and all the weapon stuff in our character done by the time we're done here. So let's create a new function called stop weapon anim, and this will be under the visuals category. And yeah, so we just have one input, which will be of the type s wep anim, and this will be in wep anim. So what we do is we're going to take this in and we're going to break it. We're also going to bring in our owning pawn, which is replicated. We're going to make sure it's valid using the peer one. We're also going to check if we're in third person or not, obviously. So we want to get B is get B in third person. That's what we called it. So we're going to check both of those. And so we want to go off of here and do some selecting based on that. So we're going to take pawn third person animation, and we're going to do a select object. So that is A, and B is first person. And the condition for that is going to be if we're in third person or not. And conversely, we're going to do a select object between the weapon animations. So obviously third person and first person, and being the same condition. And then we want to take these return values, and since they're anim montages, we want to cast to anim montage in its pure form. Just like so. And then down here we want to get anim instance on the third person mesh. Like so. And we want to make sure that it is valid using the peer one again. And we're going to need this return value again, so let's reroute it. And the return value is going to go into an and boolean, although we want it in the bottom. And we want to check if this cast was successful. And we're going to do something similar. We're going to need this one, so let's reroute it up here. We're going to need this one, so let's reroute it up there. We want to check if this was successful as well. So let's do an and boolean and a branch. This is the condition here. So we check if this cast was successful. This is for the actual character animation. And if the owning pawn is valid. So that's our condition going into this branch here, which connects to our execution string. Like so. Perfect. So if true, then we want to take our owning pawn and we want to stop anim montage. So we want to stop all of his animations if true. And the anim montage that we want to stop is this one right here. So let's bring it and connect. See if we can't line up there to make it look nice, something like that. And then we're going to go to another branch, and if false, we're going to need to reroute here. If false, we go straight into that branch. We skip the stop anim montage, because if there is no pawn to stop an animation on, well, we don't need to do that. So we'll just skip right over it. The condition for this branch is this one down here. And if that one is true, And then we do a montage stop. And you'll have to turn off context sensitive for that one. And the montage that we are going to stop is the second one, the weapon montage. So this one right here. And the target is going to be the anim instance, so the actual third person mesh for the gun. So that should go into the target there. Bring it in there, and the blend time will be 0. It'll be an instant stop. And if false, we do nothing. So that's the entire thing. So all we're doing here is handles stopping all animation, all animations for weapon firing. So that one is done, I believe. So we can just compile and save while we're at it. And now we can go back because that's what we needed next. So again, in our branch, if we have a looped fire animation going on, and if we're playing a fire animation, if that's true, then we want to stop our weapon animation. And the weapon animation in is our fire animation. Like so. And then we want to set be playing fire animation to false. Since we just stopped it, obviously that's going to be false. Like so. So this one here stops all weapon firing animations. I'm going to drag all this over to try to bring it in and out of the way so we can do the next one. Something like that. Alright, so then the last one, we want to stop the firing sounds. So we go into, let's see here, we'll do a reroute. We want to do an is valid. Turn context sensitive back on, and we want to check if our audio component fire loop is valid, which we haven't created yet. So create a new variable, and we'll call this fire loop AC for audio component. And of course, that obviously makes it an audio component reference variable. And it doesn't need a category or anything, and we're going to be changing that on the fly, so it doesn't need default value. So just plug it right in. Like so. Perfect. So we check if that's valid. So if there is an actual audio component, if we're playing a sound right now, then we want to fade that sound out. So let's drag off there. Fade out. So we want to fade that sound out. We don't want to stop it immediately. That would be kind of weird if you had, like, say, I don't know, a rocket launcher sound or something. You don't want to stop it immediately, but you want to fade it out pretty darn fast. So we're going to say like 1/6 of a second, so 0.15. And then we want to set fire loop AC to nothing since we just stopped it. So set it just like so. And then we're going to have a fire loop finish sound, and this will be a cue. So let's create a new variable called fire loop finished sound. This will be a sound cue. And again, we'll be changing this on the fly depending on the weapon, so we don't need anything in there. We want it to be editable, however, and we also want it to be, it's configurable, so we want it to be in config and audio. And we go sound, audio, whatever you prefer. And so we want to check if that is valid. So let's drag it in and do an is valid. And if it is valid, we want to do one more function. We want to play a weapon sound. Whoops, I created a variable. My bad. Delete that. Go to functions. Create a new variable called play weapon sound. And so this is under put it under what do we don't have an audio. Yeah, we'll put under an audio category, I guess. And it has an input called wep sound, which will be a sound cue, so the actual sound to play, and it has an output, which will be an audio component, an AC reference, and this will be the created audio component. So you need to create an audio component in this class to play sounds, but we delete it immediately after. So we take the weapon sound, we check if it is valid in the pure form. We want to make sure our owning pawn that's firing the weapon while stopping the firing, in this case, where are you? There you are. We want to make sure he's valid. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to do any of this. And we'll go into an AND boolean to put both of these conditions together, make sure they're both true or false. And we also want to take our owning pawn and let's reroute him. We want to get root component. So I want to get his root component, our player's root component. And so we're going to go into a branch. Looks like we might need more room to work with. Let's bring that down a couple clicks. So that's the condition there. We're also going to need to reroute this because we're going to need to use it again. So if true, then we take the root component and we spawn a sound attached. So if true goes into there, the sound is going to be the sound in, and the component attached to is the root component. And we have a ton of options that we can change here. I don't think any of them need to be changed. Location type, we want to snap to target while keeping world scale. Everything else should be fine though, I believe. So yeah, it should be good. Then so that creates an audio component. So that return value can go right into the created audio component. That can go right into the execution loop, and false also goes right into the return execution loop there. So we can reroute that so that we know that's happening. So that is that. So basically it plays a sound on the root component of a player pawn who owns the weapon. So we can compile, and then we can go back. So after we check if it's valid, if it is valid, if the fire loop finish sound is there, if there's something to play, then we play it. Play weapon sound. The sound to play is that one, and we are good to go. That is that. So all this does is, let's grab it and comment, stop playing the fire loop sound, and if a fire loop end sound is present, then play it. So that is that function. So this just stops everything relating to weapon fire when required to stop firing a weapon. So we can compile, and now we can go back because that was the function we needed next. So we set B wants to fire to false, and then we want to stop simulating weapon fire because we're stopping all firing. And then lastly, we want to determine weapon state, and this is one of the worst functions out there. I absolutely hate it. So determine weapon state, and yeah, it kind of really sucks. Just a lot to do. So we're gonna need some local variables. Let's see, what can we don't need our interfaces. I want to close all these down just so I can actually see. So we're gonna need a local variable called new state, and this is gonna be of the type if we've created it, e weapon state, yep. And we want that to be idle. Perfect. We need a delta wind time, so how long does this weapon take to fire? That'll be a float with a default value of 0. We're going to need delta holster time, same thing, so let's just duplicate it. I don't know why I've got my bar up there. Delta holster time, so that same thing, 0 float, and we'll have a delta throw time, which is again the same thing. I don't know why that keeps doing that. Delta throw time. So what we're going to do is we're going to set new state to idle. So the weapon will be idle. Then we're going to set delta wind time. How long does this weapon take to wind up? To get game time seconds minus float minus another variable. We're going to create a regular one, so a new variable called start wind time, which is going to be a float. It's going to be transient, and yeah, its default value be 0, so that's fine, like so. So minus that. So let's plug that into there. And then we want to set our delta holster time. I have to figure out why this bar keeps coming. Alright, let's see if that fixes it. So then we want to set delta holster time. And that's going to be set exactly the same way, except we're just going to replace start wind time with holster start time. So let's create a new variable. Actually, we can just take start wind time and duplicate it and call this holster start time. However, that is not going to be 0 filled at load, and that'll be a default value of 0, so it's fine the way it is. Just plug it right in. So after we set that, then we lastly want to set delta throw time. This is starting to bug me. Let's just lock it or something. I think it's got because I got updates going on. So yeah, same thing. We'll just paste that right in there. And of course, holster start time is not it. It's going to be delta throw time. So it's we're actually just minusing game time in seconds from itself. So we just can take delta throw time and subtract it from itself. So just like so. Well, I'll just leave that. Something's causing it to pop up and down, so I'm just gonna leave it the way it is and just lose some more screen real estate. So after we set all that, then we go into a sequence. I think it's because I'm updating Windows 10. Anyways, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna check if the weapon is equipped. So we go into a branch, and that condition is B is equipped. And if true, we go into another branch, and that condition is we check current state. We check if it's equal enum to holstering. And if it is, we go into another branch. And that condition is delta holster time less than another new variable, I believe. Which will be holster duration. So how long it takes to holster this weapon. So this will be a float, it'll be 0, that's fine just the way it is. So we just gotta plug it into there. Like so. So this just checks if we're in mid holster or not. If we are, then we set current state to holstering. That means we're in the process of holstering. But if it's not less than, then that means we're done holstering, so we set the current state to holstered. So we'll go something like that. Good enough. So that's the true and false there. I guess we'll go back one more. So, if our current state is equal to holster, or is not equal to holstering, sorry, so that's the false condition, then we go into another branch where, if we're not holstering and we want to holster and we can holstering, then we start holstering. So, our condition here is going to be an AND boolean, which is going to be B is pending holster and can holster. So can we holster this weapon, and are we pending a holster? If that is true, then we set our state, our current state, to holstering. So we're currently holstering. If false, however, then we want to see if we're throwing. So we go into another branch. And to check that condition, we check if our current state is equal enum to throwing. And if it is, we need to go into another branch. So if we are throwing, we go into a branch and we check if delta throw time is less than this weapon's throw duration. So that's another variable we'll need to create. So throw duration. This one we want to be 0 filled at load, and otherwise it's fine, so just plug it in. So the current throw time is less than the total time it takes to throw the weapon to the ground, is what we're asking here. If it is, we're not done throwing, so then we continue on it. So then we set our state, our current state, to throwing. So we continue throwing until that condition becomes the other way around. It becomes false. So throwing, and if false, then we're done throwing, so it's dropped. Like so. So that is that. If we're not throwing, so false, we go into another branch. You guessed it, and its condition is going to be another and boolean. Oops, and boolean. And we're going to check B pending throw. B is pending throw. And I don't know if we have this function yet. Throw. No, we're going to need another function called can we throw this gun? So let's create a function called can throw. This can be a pure constant function with an output boolean called B is throwable. So some weapons you can't throw to the ground, like say a vehicle weapon. So I'm going to set it to pure and constant. This is going to be a weapon state, so we'll put it in state category. And so all we do here to return, we're going to do an or boolean. So we're going to check is current state equal to, and we want two of them. Oops. Yeah, like so. Is it equal to, let's plug that in, either idle or holstered. So we can only throw if our weapon is idle or holstered. We can't throw it if we're firing or reloading and so on and so forth. So we'll compile and save. So B pending throw and can throw. So if those two are true, then we can go into this branch, and if true, then we can set our current state to throwing. If false, however, we want to check if we're reloading. So we go into another branch, and that we just check B. We're gonna need another, another variable, and this one is replicated, so it's going to be B is pending reload. It's going to be a boolean. It's going to be replicated. It's going to be 0 filled on load, and by default it's going to be false. So that's its condition. Because reloads, we need we want that to be server side, and we also want to see if people are reloading, and that'll be based off that. So if we are pending a reload, then we want to go into a branch to check if we need to wind down the gun or not. And if we do, then we want to wind down. So let's go into a branch. So if true, we go into a branch. Its condition, well, first of all, let's just set true since it's easy. If true, we set current state to winding down. And its condition is pretty complex. First of all, we do an and boolean. Just gonna save while we're at it. And we want to check, we're gonna need wind down time. I don't think we have that at all. Nope. So we're gonna need a new variable called wind down time. How long does this weapon take to wind down? It's going to be a float. We want it to be editable based on the weapon, and so it's going to be in configuration timing, and it's fine just like that. So we want to check if wind down time is greater than 0. If this weapon has no wind down time, then we don't need to worry about it. It's that would be something like an instant fire weapon. Basically, we're checking if it's an instant fire weapon. Then we want to do an or boolean with 4 slots. So we want to add 4 pins, 2 pins. Where are you? Add pin, add pin. And the last one is gonna be an and boolean. So the or is gonna be is the current state set to wound up fully, firing, or winding up. Oh darn, I did that totally wrong. I'll check if the current state is equal to those. My bad, equal enum. So if it's wound up fully, winding up, or firing, that's condition 1, 2, and 3. And the other one is current state equal enum to winding down. Winding down. And if it is, we need to check if our delta wind time is less than the wind down time. So we check float less than float. We check if delta wind time, so how long we've been winding down, is less than the wind down time. Like so. All right, that's good. If false, however, then we go into another branch where if we don't need to wind down and we can't reload, then we don't need to change states. So we check, we want to do a not boolean. I don't believe we have this one either. Reload, nope. So we're gonna need one more peer function quick, and not exactly the smallest one. We need a new function called can reload. So this is going to be peer. It's going to be in the states category, and it's going to have an output boolean called b can reload, like so. So remember those sequences we made for checking multiples? We're gonna need a 6th one for this. So we might as well do that first. So let's just save everything while we're at it, and let's go to our BPM helper macros, and we have our 3 and 2. Let's add a 6. So this is a 6 and sequence. So this one, it has an input execution, so execute, and it has an output true and an output false and an output boolean if we need to work with data off of that. So B is true. And then we need 6 inputs. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So in 1, in 2, in 3, in 4, in 5, in 6. Perfect. All right, so we're gonna need some more room this time. How this one's gonna work is just like the other ones. We're gonna go into a branch, and we're gonna check if the first one is true. If it is, we go to the second one. Only if it's true, however. And if it's true, we go into the third one. so on down the line. Four, 5, 6. Whoops, 6. There we go. Take our outputs over. So we need to create a local boolean, and then we need to assign a value to it, and that value is going to be make literal bool. This one's going to be true. We're going to take that same local boolean and we're going to assign a value again, which is going to be the same thing, but it's going to be false as the value. And the final output is going to be the local boolean into the b is true. False is going to go into the false output, true is going to go into the true, and we're only going to get the true here if we go through all those trues. Otherwise, everything else goes to false. So false goes there, and so on and so forth. That should be the most complicated Boolean and checking sequence we need though. So let's save that. Hopefully I put it together right. So we can go back to our base weapon and we can see what's the best way to do this. I guess we'll just go 6 and sequence, and if true and, well, true and false will go into the return node, but B is true goes into B can reload. Our input execution comes from there, and 5 and 6 are both going to be true. This just saves us having to make a 4 one because we'll never use a 4 and, but we will use a 6 multiple times. So first of all, we want to check if the owner is valid and can reload. So make sure there's a player, make sure that he can reload. He wouldn't be able to reload if, say, he had no ammo or he already had a full clip. So we take our owning pawn, we check is valid, and did we do can reload on him? No, so we're gonna need another function there. So this one's very easy. Let's just go to our BP base character, create a new function called can reload. And this is a peer function. We'll put this in the info category. And it has an output boolean called b can reload. And so we just check, we do an and boolean, then we do a not. Let's see, do we have camera? No, so we need to create a new variable called b disable camera control. So if you're dead, that would be true, for example. So that's boolean, category is going to be input, and it'll be false by default, so we can just plug it right in. And then we need to check if we're alive. I don't know if we... No, we didn't create that function. So we need one more peer function called is alive. And this one is very easy. I think we did this one. I'm sure we did. I thought I called it is dead or something. Maybe not. I guess just br dead is the variable I created, which is exactly what we're gonna use. So drag in br dead. This one's peer. We're gonna put it in the info section, and it has an output boolean b is alive. and we just check if we're not dead, so not boolean. So we'll compile that together and head back. So we can reload if our camera control is not disabled and if we are live. So compile that and we can go back to our base weapon. So if our owning player is valid and can reload, those are our first two conditions. They cannot be combined. They need to be separate because one could be true, one could be false. Our third is going to be based on ammo. So we're going to go into an AND boolean. And we're going to need to create some variables that have to do with ammo. So, current ammo in magazine. I'll just go in mag. It's going to be an integer. It's going to be editable. It's going to go under config ammo since this is going to be adjustable per weapon. It's going to be replicated, obviously. And we will give it a default value of, I don't know, 24. Sounds pretty standard. I'm not a gun guy, so we want to check if that is less than the amount of ammo per magazine. So let's just duplicate that, I guess, which is ammo per mag, and we'll just make sure it doesn't need to be replicated, so we'll set that to none. We'll compile and it will have the same number. It'll be editable as well, so we can just plug that right in. So if we have less ammo in our magazine than our magazine can hold, and we'll need another replicated variable, which is, so we might as well just duplicate that, which will be current ammo. So how much ammo do we currently have? This will be an integer. It'll be exactly the same, replicated. We're just going to change the value. We obviously want to start with more ammo. So like, what's 24 times like maybe 5 mags? I guess 120. Yeah, I like that. That's perfectly fine. So if that minus the current ammo in mag is greater than 0, so basically, do we have ammo? Or is a cheat on? So we're gonna have to create a variable, because we're gonna want some, oops, not a variable, a function. We're gonna want some guns that have unlimited ammo, like certain vehicles and such. So let's create a function called has infinite ammo. This one's pretty easy. It'll be pure. We'll put it under info, and it just has an output called B has infinite ammo, and we're just gonna leave that to false. And then you can set that on a per weapon basis. So let's compile. So or that, so has infinite ammo. So if we have ammo, or if we have infinite ammo, or if the current ammo in our magazine is less than the ammo per mag, that's our third condition. And then our fourth condition is, which will be our last one actually, an AND boolean. And the top one goes to an OR boolean. And the bottom one goes to an AND boolean. And that bottom one goes to a NOT boolean. And this one goes to a NOT boolean, which goes to an AND boolean. And its bottom one goes to an OR boolean with 4 pins, with its bottom one going to an AND boolean. Lots of checking going on. So we want to check our current state. Put it up there. We want to check if it is equal to firing or idle. So we want to check first of all if it's equal enum to idle into our or is equal to firing in our AND, and this NOT here we want to go float is greater than 0. And which one? That'll be our wind down time. Come on. Then we want to check if current state is equal enum to, if it wound up fully, winding up, or firing. And that plugs into 1, 2, and 3. And this one goes right into there as well, into our wind down time is greater than 0. And lastly, we check if we are if we're not doing those, then if we are winding down. And if so, then we need to check if game time in seconds minus let's see, do we have it? Start wind time. So where does how long does the weapon take to start winding up or down? And is that less than the total wind down time? I think that covers it. So yeah, that's our fourth one. So let's see if I can comment this, because that'll maybe be helpful in the future. So this one basically just checks if we can currently reload. Ensure we have basically ensure magazine is not full and has ammo to reload or has infinite ammo. And last one, or this top one here, we just make sure that our is weapon owner valid and can he it whatever reload. And that is that. So we set that up. That's peer. It's got a category. Perfect. So compile that. So we can close that now and go back to our determined weapon state. So not can reload. If true, we set our new state to our current state. If false, then if we don't need to wind down and we can reload, then we start reloading. So we check that basically by just setting current state to reloading, and then I think we're done our checks. For there anyway, that's the true of this first part of the branch. We still have false to go through up there. So that's that part of the branch. I might as well comment it now. Yeah, so let's go up here. So this branch checks is wep equipped. And this is gonna need another pin. And this whole part up here, basically, if player is holstering weapon, check the holstering progress. And then this one, if not holstering and player wants to holster and can holster, then start holstering. Else, otherwise, if we are throwing our weapon down somehow, check our throw progress. And this one, if we aren't throwing and want to, and we can, then throw the weapon down. Then we check, are we trying to reload? I guess not are, is the player trying to reload. And this one, this big one here, basically just checks if weapon needs to wind down, let it wind down. Yes. And then this one, if we don't need to wind down and can't reload, don't change states, hence set new state to current state. And lastly, if we don't need to wind down and we can reload, reload. Good enough for me. Alright, so let's continue on. Let's do that other false one here. So if the weapon is not equipped, then let's create, let's just bring it up here actually. That'll make things easy. We just create a branch. Condition is, oh come on. Condition is B is pending equip. If we're pending an equip, then we set our new state to equipping. So what that's doing is if weapon isn't equipped, are we trying to equip? If we are, the only state should be is equipping, obviously. So that's that one. Seems fairly easy. We have a little bit more to do here, as in a lot more, which comes from this branch here, the if we're trying to reload. So all that true stuff, this is just for reloading here. In fact, you might as well just take it right off and move it to its own thing. So are we trying to reload true? Let's set that to like green. If false, then we go to a branch, obviously, put it down here. Its condition is going to be an AND boolean first. And we want to check if the weapon wants to fire, or if the player wants to fire, rather, I guess. And wind up time. We didn't create a wind up time yet, so we need to create that. So let's just take wind down time, duplicate, go wind up time. So that'll be a float, editable, and a default value of 0. Just make sure of that. Yep, perfect. So it'll be done on a per weapon basis also. Is wind up time greater than 0? And not, or we'll throw an, well, this needs an extra pin. And so or is our current state, whoops, I totally screwed that up. Is our current state equal enum to wound up fully or firing? And is it equal to winding up and if it is, then is wind up time greater than or equal to however long we've been waiting for it to wind up, which is our delta wind time. So that whole shebang bang there. So if true, then we set our new state to winding up. So this whole setup here is basically if we are not trying to reload and want to fire but need to wind the weapon up first, then wind it up. If false, however, we want to fire and we don't need to wind up and we can fire, then just let it fire. So false goes into another branch. This one's a lot easier. We set new state to firing on true. And its condition is simply just an AND boolean. Two conditions. B wants to fire and we can fire. So can fire. Oh, did we not create that? Nope. We'll have to create that function as well. I swear we just created that. I'm confident of it. Or did we do that? Oh yeah, it's similar to can reload. That's what confused me there. So we need a function similar to that called can fire. I might make this the last one here because we're getting pretty long. This one's going to be a pure function, which is also going to be in the state category. It's going to have an output called bCanFire. And we're going to need to go back to, I'm just going to save everything, our BPM helper functions, and we're going to add a new macro, which is going to be a 5 and sequence. Keep my naming convention the same. I think I can just take my 6 and get rid of one. Although that won't, I'll still have to create the inputs and outputs. I don't know if I'm really helping myself there. So I'll have an execution in, execute. We'll have a true, a false, and a boolean. B is true. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in 1, in 2, in 3, in 4, in 5. All right, let's see if we can't hook this up here. So the top one is true, the bottom one is false, and our local boolean is the output B is true. So we just plug all these in 1, in 2, in 3, in 4, in 5. So we just delete the last one here. So all the falses go there, but the true goes up there. I think that should work. So we'll save that. And we're going to call on that. So we're going to do our 5 and sequence. True and false both return based on B is true. In 5 is true because we only need 4 conditions. The first 2 is the same as can reload, so let's just copy them. Instead of can it reload though, can it fire is valid, and I don't think we created the can fire, did we? Nope, so we're gonna have to create that. So let's save, let's go to our character, and let's duplicate can reload and call can fire. Let's open that sucker up. And this one is very easily as well, and just B can fire. Appear as well, it'll be an info, and we're just checking if we're alive, and yeah, the exact same thing basically. So we can just compile that and go right back. So is it valid and can fire? That is our first 2 conditions. Next up, we need to check if our fire mode can currently fire. So we'll have different firing modes on different weapons. So we're gonna get our current state and check if it's equal to, we'll have 3 of them. And we'll have another one down here. So are we idle, firing, or wound up fully? And then down here, are we winding up? Whoops, winding up. So this goes very similarly. We do a big OR boolean with 4 pins. So 1, 2, 3. And the last one we go into an AND boolean, which checks that. And if we are winding up, well, we need to check if we're wound up or not, which we do by getting the game time in seconds and subtracting the start wind time from that and checking if that is greater than the total wind up time for this weapon. Once it is, we know we're fully wound up. And our fourth condition is just make sure we aren't trying to reload. So we'll just bring it, I guess, kind of over here or something. We just do a not. Where are we? B is pending reload. Yep. Not pending reload. So just ensure aren't currently reloading. So we can compile and save. So that's pure, that's got its category, perfect. So let's close can fire and go back to determine weapon state. So B wants to fire and can fire. If that's true, then we set our new state to fire. So if we want to fire and don't need to wind up, and we can fire, then fire. If false, however, we go into another branch. This one, we're gonna set new state on true to winding down. So all we're checking here is if we don't want to or can't fire and this weapon needs to wind down, then let it wind down. So we need an AND boolean, which goes into another AND, which goes into an OR with 4 pins. And the bottom pin goes to an AND boolean. You've seen this setup before. This goes into an OR boolean. This goes to a NOT boolean. B wants to fire. And NOT can fire. So we also want to check if our wind down time is greater than 0. Oops, not less than, greater than is greater than 0. Or wind down, not wind up, I think I said. And then we need to check our current state. We need to check if it's equal to winding down. That goes into the AND. And if it is, then we need to check if we're wound down or not. So we take our delta wind time and check if it is less than our wind down time. And for the other 3 conditions here, we check if current state is equal to 3 different things. Which would be wound up fully, firing, or winding up. Alright, almost there. So if that one's false, well, first I'll comment this. if we don't want to or can't fire and the weapon needs to wind down, let it wind down. We don't want to start reloading or something if the weapon needs to wind down first. And false goes into one more branch, the last one for this one. This deals with automatic weapons, so we go into an and boolean, not boolean, so B wants to fire, not, and B is automatic, so we need to create a new variable, which is B is automatic, and that is going to be a boolean. It's going to be editable, obviously on a per weapon basis. It's going to be under config firing, and by default we're going to set this to true. So chuck that one in there, and if true, then we need to clear handle by, or clear timer by handle, and I believe we created this one already. The handle firing, oh maybe not, firing no. Okay, well we need to create that one then. Yeah, no, we haven't created that one yet. So create a new variable called handle, whoops, handle firing time, handle. This is a timer handle type, data type, timer handle, and it'll be fine just like that. So just plug that into the handle pin. So that is that. So if it's an automatic weapon, stop firing if the player wants to stop firing. Alright, so this is trying to reload false. Make that one kind of red, or we'll make it reddish, whatever. Almost done this function. Now we just need to do our sequence really quickly. This one should be, actually is really quick. Let's do the second one first because it's easy. We just want to set weapon. Oh, we don't even have that function done. And that's another big one, so I'm gonna leave that for next time actually. Well, we can do one since it's easy. So we go into a branch. This is for debugging, so let's create a new variable called b print determine weapon state info. Because this is such a complicated setup for weapon states and determining them, you'll probably want to debug them, especially when we start doing vehicular weapons and such. So this is of type boolean. It's going to be editable. We want to turn it on and off on the fly. This will be under config debug. Default will be false. So plug that into there. If it's true, then we just do a print string. Oops, my things are all screwed up. Print string. Let's see here. We don't want to print to log. We want to append. I'm going to build up a string here. So basically we're going to go determining weapon state, current state, and then we'll take current state and plug it into B, and then we'll give it a tab, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, new state, and then we'll grab new state, our local variable. I didn't give those L's, totally forgot, and plug it into there. So if debugging prints change of states, so we'll just leave ourselves a note here. Need to do set weapon state function here. We'll put that in red. All right. Cool. I just noticed one mistake though. I was using current state instead of new state, so we need to change these. Hopefully they will go easy. Yeah, new state holstering, holstered, cool. So we just need to change those out. So let's go down, current state, new state. And it's only where we're setting them, I believe, that I made all the errors. And I did it right the second time around, just not the first time here. Set new state throwing, I believe, yep. And I believe the rest should be fine, because we should have winding down over here. Set new state to winding down, set new state to current state, set current state to reloading. Nope, that'll be new state 2. Because we're... Yes, new state, yeah, you did all those ones correctly. All right, cool. So yeah, since that function there is pretty complicated too, I'm gonna leave it off there. So thanks again for watching from the team here at UnrealTek.net, a division of BlenderTek.com. If you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe. We also take donations. If you dislike this video, please tell us why so we can improve in the future. So we'll see you next time. Remember, create your way.